All right, number 5. When a creature hits you with
You can also offhand your battle axe.
Welcome everyone to Monsters Multiclass. I'm Kevin Odie.
I'm Jared Bornagle.
And I'm Will Meldon.
And on this episode, we are taking a look at the Path of Wild Magic, the new Barbarian subclass added in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So let's dive into it. So, Path of Wild Magic. It's really kind of the same flavor as the Wild Magic Sorcerer, but just given to someone who is more muscly inclined, I guess, instead of magically inclined.
They realized that the multi-class would never work, so it was okay to make a subclass for it.
Right, yeah. But it is really... Yeah, many places in the multiverse abound with beauty, intense emotions, and rampant magic. The Feywild, the upper planes, and other realms of supernatural power radiates with such forces that can profoundly influence people. And it's basically saying you're tapping into one of these and you get infused with wild magic. I don't really have much more to say on the flavor.
There's really not much more to it.
Yeah.
It is unique, at the very least, to Barbarians. They don't have any other crossover with magic, I don't believe. So whether or not you... What?
Yeah, not like Path of Zealot feels a little cleric-y.
Cleric-y, sure. Okay. Yeah.
You know, but it's not... It's definitely not saying like, oh, they're infused with... No, actually, I think they get like a divine strike and everything.
They do, yeah, at some point.
Yeah, so I guess it is infused with divine energy.
Okay, so they don't have much in the way of
fury.
An arcane crossover. And
right,
this is it. But yeah. I don't even have like a single character concept that I would really want to pull from this, which is just kind of my line of thinking. I've never once thought that I wish my Barbarian was infused with magic. That doesn't mean
it's kind of neat.
Yeah, it is neat.
I think it'll be fun.
It is neat.
Yeah.
My only issue with it is in all of the flavor description and everything, they make it seem like such a whimsical, happy thing, whereas the Wild Magic Sorcerer has negative drawbacks to it.
Right.
This very much seems to try and play it off as, it's great. Everything's great. You've got some magic in your blood, and sometimes funny things happen, and no one ever has a problem. Which I'm always going to take issue with, because I want a character choice to be 90% bad and 10% good.
Yeah, like with the flavor, it says, as folk of deep feeling, barbarians are especially susceptible to these wild influences. So right there, I think can give you a lot to play off of just from a role-playing perspective of a character who's very swingy in terms of their emotions and how they react to situations and kind of explosive. Though that is somewhat Barbarians, and then maybe this one just has a more kind of positive, whimsical bent to it.
Yeah, because other Barbarians can be very just monotonely angry, and that's okay. It's fitting enough. Where this one you would expect to be all over the spectrum of emotions.
Right. This is definitely a Barbarian subclass that's great for reflavoring your rage into like not necessarily always being about anger.
Right.
I thought I had a good example of what else you could do, but I'm actually blanking. Like, how could you reflavor rage to like happiness, but still have like advantage on strength saving throws and +2 to your damage?
I don't think that much matters. Yeah, I mean, it is magic, but I'll tell you, you can get real creepy with this. If you want to talk about being able to have any other emotion be like the spotlight for your rage, somebody who's happy while raging is terrifying. Just smiling, cackling while they are slicing off heads. Don't like that. Actually, this reminds me a lot of the Sorrowsworn. Not just the angry, but really any of their emotions, because that's their whole shtick, is that they are an emotion taken to an extreme, and those are creepy. I mean, I love the Sorrowsworn because they're so creepy.
Right.
Imagining this as somebody crying the entire time because it's sadness extrapolated.
Right.
Weird. It makes me like creepy crawly.
I kind of like it though.
Yeah, in a good way.
Yeah. Ultimately though, I think this is one of those subclasses and class subclasses where it's the role playing just comes from like making the character interesting separate from this. It's more like this is the character's skills and a little bit of the backstory of how they got this wild magic and things like that. But otherwise, it's not like a wizard where there's kind of like a lot of like study and research built into who the character is, or a warlock with their patron and things like that. This is one of those, it's just a lot of freedom, kind of like the fighter.
Yeah, that's definitely not a bad thing.
Nothing wrong with that, yeah. All right, so right away for 3rd level, you get Magic Awareness. As an action, you can open your awareness to the presence of concentrated magic. Until the end of your next turn, you know the location of any spell or magic item within 60 feet of you that isn't behind total cover. And when you sense the spell, you learn the school of magic it belongs to. You could use this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, regained after a long rest. So it's kind of like free detect magic.
Yeah, it's a little bit weaker, a little bit stronger, because I don't think detect magic is limited to walls. I have to check that. I don't even know why I said it without looking that up.
Classic us.
Yeah.
When we're doing like looking up stuff, instead of me just cutting the video and doing a jump cut, I should like cut away to B-roll of us like dramatically typing away on our keyboard and high-angled shots of the screen loading the search.
Whoa! There you go. There's some clip footage for you, Kevin. All right, so detect
magic
magic
can penetrate most barriers, but is blocked by 1 foot of stone, 1 inch of common metal, a thin sheet of lead, or 3 feet of wood or dirt. It's 30 feet instead of 60 feet.
Okay, so it's different than detect magic, to say the least.
Right.
But overall, it's good. I mean, that's great to have. Right now, we've got a Furbolg who has a bonus action detect magic once per short rest, and that's great. That's a really useful ability.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes up a lot, so here's just another way to get it. No complaints there. If this was all you got at 3rd level, it would be a really, really crappy start. But
sure. But I think the most times where I see this come up are, 1, determining whether or not an item is magic, and 2, finding traps. Or like you've already found the trap and you're like, okay, what are we dealing with here? And you got that magical awareness. I see this getting a ton of use, and it adds to the Barbarian what I always say they're lacking, and that is out of combat utility. Here is something that the Barbarian is now good for. There's magic afoot. Great. Hey, Barbarian, can you check this out? Can you tell us more about it? When has that ever been the case about some magic? Like, this is totally unique. I'm excited about that.
Yep. Definitely. Also, since it's just types of spells, you could use it to determine if somebody's under the effect of a spell.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Which, I mean, detect magic can as well, but...
Right. Then that obviously takes like a 1st level spell. That's not too crazy. It's only an action, only lasts a turn. Yeah, I mean, it's very different than detect magic, but I think that it takes care of 90% of the times that you need detect magic.
Exactly, yes.
And even if I had a wizard in the party, I would definitely be saying, oh, let's use the Barbarian's very expendable resource instead of your 1st level spells, or taking a minute to cast it as a ritual. 10 minutes to cast it as a ritual.
Exactly, yeah. All right, the other 3rd level ability is Wild Surge. This is really the kind of bread and butter of this class. The magical energy roiling inside you sometimes erupts from you. When you enter your rage, roll on the wild magic table to determine the magical effect produced. If it requires a save, it's a DC of 8 plus your proficiency plus your con modifier. So this is not a D100 table like the Sorcerer's one. It's just a D8.
Sadly.
Though the Sorcerer's one's more like a D50 because I think every one is 2. But
yeah.
D50 is kind of hard to roll. We'll kind of run through a quick synopsis of these. I'm not going to read them verbatim, and if you're watching the video, just put the table up on the screen. It is, in a disappointing way, universally good.
Yeah.
I do like that about the wild magic, where it's kind of like, for the most part, most of the things are good or neutral, and then there's a few bad, but there's always that kind of risk. I wish they went that route with this. And then they could have maybe made the good ones a little more extreme because there's the chance of bad ones. And that's also just more fitting for, I feel, the wild magic kind of role-playing.
Right. That's what I was saying earlier, is where the wild magic sorcerer, you at least have this, like, wow, anything can happen, and it might be terrible. It might be very, very bad. This is just, we don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be good. It's going to be very, very good.
Right. So these are things like shadowy tendrils slash around you. It's each creature of your choice. So it's not just everyone around you, just each creature of your choice within 30 feet. Succeed on con save or take 1d12 necrotic damage, and you also gain 1d12 tap hit points. Or you could teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you could see. Until your rage ends, you could use this effect again on each of your turns as a bonus action. Just kind of insane.
Yeah, that's really insane, actually. Just being able to teleport around. Now, I know you want to go through these, but I'm going to say we should probably talk about them individually, because this is like the core of the class.
Yeah.
You're like, but I wanted to read them quickly. Too bad, Kevin. I mean, starting with that number one, I think you're right on the money with that. Could have been a like good and a bad thing, because if you got that and you were within friendly range, then you would be very sad that you rolled a 1. That'd be bad. It forces you then to also make good positioning choices about when you rage. Whereas normally you don't think about it. You go, I rage, and then I run up. It would be, I run to the enemy, and then I rage, because there's a 1 in 8 chance that I do 1d12 damage to my party.
Right.
And that teleport is, you're right, ridiculous.
Yeah. These do kind of seem a bit all over the place in power level, which I guess is okay, because we were talking about 1 in negative, so... But yeah, rolling a 2 seems like that would be a very exciting moment.
Right.
Just a free 30-foot teleport. And even the first thing, I would almost want it to be, you have to teleport 30 feet.
Okay.
And it's you teleport up to 30 feet, which means you could teleport 5 feet to your left and not really change your positioning.
Right. Whereas the you have to could be, oh, I'm in a good position. I don't want to move 30 feet. And it's like,
right.
That's what you get for being a wild magic barbarian. Right. Oh, I like that a lot more.
Yeah, but, number 3. Oh.
No, I was just rereading it. You teleport up to 30 feet. So you're right. You have to teleport, but it can be 5 feet. That doesn't change much.
In theory, it could be 1 foot, I guess.
You're right.
We always play on grids, so like we don't think about things that way, but it could just be half a foot, 6 inches, centimeters to the left.
Super interesting stuff.
Right, yeah.
Right, it could even be a millimeter, Kevin.
Yeah.
You could just not tell.
A plank length. Yeah, you could just move a plank length.
A what?
A plank length.
Oh.
This is like the smallest known unit of measure. Like, smallest something could be is a plank.
Planks are huge.
You got me.
Got to see in it.
You just know science, yeah.
This is like 2x4s, guys. Right. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, I guess you are just going to cover these in detail. You did bring up a good point. This is kind of the core of the class.
Right.
So I'm not just going to skim them. Number 3, if you roll a 3, an intangible spirit, which looks like a flump or a pixie, your choice, appears within 5 feet of one creature of your choice that you can see within 30 feet. At the end of the current turn, the spirit explodes. Each creature within 5 feet must make a dex save or take 1d6 force damage. And then until your range ends, you can cause this effect again, summoning another spirit as a bonus action.
So basically a free 1d6 force damage in an AoE every turn. Extremely powerful.
Right, yeah, for a bonus action, because that's on par with like cantrips.
Yeah.
Only thing though I'd say is that it does not scale at all. Same with number 1, where the 1d12, nothing boosts that. Like later on, yeah, if I remember correctly, you do not get abilities where it says like if you roll damage dice, they now double or
right. And even
something.
Even worse with that number 1 is it's not even every turn. Whereas all the rest of these seem to have like every turn you do something. This one's just one time when you rage, you do an AoE of 1d12 damage, and you gain some temp HP. Okay, great. But then that's it.
Right.
Everything else has this like exciting fighting style changing ability. Where like this combat has a tone now because of what you rolled on the Wild Magic Surge. Whereas number 1, it bores the crap out of me in comparison.
Right. But no, even this one, though, like level 15, and you do this and you get a 3.
Sure. It's AoE force damage, though.
Yeah.
The fact that you can continuously choose where it is, it at the very least makes, from a DM's perspective, I'm now seeing this Barbarian making a exploding flumph every turn, and that changes up how I might have been playing. If it was a bunch of minions, now I need to spread them out, and maybe that's not beneficial. So it changes the battlefield, it changes up the style, even if it's not crazy damage.
Right.
I like it from that perspective.
Sure. And you know what? Me complaining, it's already contradicting myself. Just saying about it. No, some of these should be bad. It's like, all right, well, neutral or not really being useful at higher levels, and then you roll. It's like, yeah, okay. That's how the table rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, number 4, Magic infuses one weapon of your choice that you're holding. Until your rage ends, the weapon's damage changes to force, and it gains the light and thrown properties, the normal range of 20 feet and a long range of 60 feet. If the weapon leaves your hand, the weapon reappears in your hand at the end of the current turn. So it gets you a thrown weapon that just poof.
Yep, so now you're just throwing your D12 Great Axe. Now that said, it reappears in your hand at the end of the current turn. Not
That's interesting,
after each attack. So this actually is okay. Where I would much rather it... I mean, because when are you in a situation where you are swinging in melee range and you want to say, okay, I attacked this thing in front of me, I want to now throw my weapon 20 feet. The only time I can think of...
That thing died.
...is if that thing died. Otherwise, I don't really care. Or if you want to, like, proc a concentration check on the wizard that's 20 feet away. There's like some times where it might make sense to split up your damage, but generally speaking, you focus fire.
Yeah.
If getting the wizard to drop concentration is so important, get out of wherever you are and go to that wizard.
Right. And you can't count on getting this roll to plan on that.
Right.
So you'd probably be running over anyways. Or this would really be at the start of a battle, you know if you have this or not. Changing your weapon's damage type to force is fine. In a previous episode, we teased that way you would find an excuse to rant about damage resistances at low levels. Is this a good enough excuse?
This is a good enough excuse to me, yeah.
All right. So we frequently see people talk about if like low levels and a melee damage type becomes force or psychic and things that are not really resisted. And a lot of people talk about how that's amazing. That's worth chasing. It's not. It's really not. At these low levels, most monsters don't have resistances to that type of stuff. Like bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. That is a higher level thing. And when that starts coming online with monsters, you start getting magic weapons, like a +1 magic weapon, and 98% of the cases gets around any of that resistance.
Yeah.
There are a couple really specific odd cases, I think. Will, you found one, like the Demi-Lich.
The Demi-Lich is the only thing specifically resistant to magic weapons.
Yeah. And
it's not an everyday fight.
There might be a couple things where it not like specifically resistant or immune to magical weapons, but saying just a resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, and doesn't have the from non-magical attacks added to it. But it's rare stuff. It's a minor boost to be able to do this at low levels.
Yeah.
Unless you've got that DM who hates magic weapons.
Sure. Which even we could say that ever since our very first campaign, Storm King's Thunder, where I kind of shat the bed in giving out magic items, just like they were candy, and have become very hesitant to give them out now, you guys still don't have issues with resistances.
No.
Unless it's an interesting thing that I wouldn't want to be taken away.
Right.
Where it's like we fought that core spawn worm the other day that had like, I don't remember exactly, resistance to cold, vulnerability to fire. Maybe that was the other way around. I think it was the other way around.
Yeah.
But like that's interesting then. And sure, yes, you might have the ability to do force damage and it gets around that. But you guys are level 11. You have ways around it. It's not that hard.
Right.
I can't in good faith take the argument anymore of I get this force damage or I get psychic damage at low levels. This is good. Those things don't come up. You don't even see psychic damage on a stat block in 99% of monsters, let alone ones you're fighting at 3rd level. So it just doesn't matter.
Right.
Let's stop pretending, everybody. Which is really us just saying months later, the psionic sorcerer still sucks.
I
you
can't
think
wait
the
for the
soul
comments on this one. What about ghosts?
How hard are silver weapons to get? Like, yes, it takes some money. Yes, it takes some planning by the PCs potentially. But, like, how many times do I see on the internet people talking about how, oh yeah, I gave my party a magic weapon at level 3 because, oh, everybody should have magic items. They're fun to have. Like, no one's making this a problem.
Right. And yeah, and if you run a pre-written campaign, they just dump these weapons on you very early on. It's like clearly the intent from Wizards of the Coast to just give you all these magic weapons.
Right.
Yeah. Or so you hold them off and you're level 3 and you fight a ghost, and now all of a sudden, sure, this is a fight where your martial characters aren't doing much. You figure out something else to do. You help them protect the casters who bombard it with magic or whatever. It's like, that's not game breaking and giving the rogue the ability to do psychic damage at level 3 or the monk at like level 4 who gets magical weapons anyways at level 6 built into the class. It's just like, it's a really minor thing. I'm not saying it will never come up, but it is so situational where like 95% of the time it just will not matter.
Right. And the times where it does, I will just even add on and say, that's okay. It's okay to suck in a specific encounter because the whole point is that this is a team-based game where you have a couple other party members who are potentially going to pick up the slack on that one. Where, yes, the martial character kind of sucks here. Well, hey, we've got the wizard who's got spells, as you just said. Maybe it's about protecting them. Maybe you just aren't doing that much damage this time. It's not the end of the world. And it's so infrequent. Very infrequent that this comes up.
Yes. Also, I'm pretty sure ghosts are just resistant. They're not even immune.
Yes.
They're immune to cold, necrotic, and poison. And then damage to, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magical attacks.
I thought it was non-silvered weapons.
It says non-magical.
Okay.
But I don't remember the specifics. Silver might come up.
It would say silver if it was just silvered.
There's
only just non-magical. Oh.
Which is actually
I think devils. Yeah.
You're saying silver?
By the way, it's not even immunity. It's just resistance.
Right. So it's great. You get some force damage. Is this on number 5 now or 5? 4. I don't know where we're at.
We were just talking about 4.
Number 4 doesn't even talk about magic damage.
It changes to force. Yeah. Your weapons damage.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. Changes to force.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I would like somebody to actually tell me, how often does a scenario come up where you don't have a magic weapon that can get around this, and you roll this 1 in 8 chance that you get force damage, or this, your weapon becomes force damage, and you're like, oh my god, I'm so thankful that I have force damage here.
Right. To be fair, I have no... to be fair, I've not heard anybody say, oh, the Wild Magic Barbarian's amazing because of the potential to do force. I haven't heard that. We've heard that about the Soul Knife, and there was the monk where they get something.
So you got like the 1 in 20 chance that your battle is going to be determined by your weird damage replacement, and now you have a 1 in 8 chance of actually helping in this situation.
Right. You still can't choose to do it. Now, that said, they have a couple other ways.
Blow it up with a flump.
Yeah, they have a couple other ways to get force damage, and I'm sure you'd be happy that you have it in those scenarios. But not many of them are coming up at 3rd level. They're coming up at 11th level when you've got your twin blades that do fire damage and are magic and, can pull enemies closer, and you're like, wow, I've got this awesome magic item. Oh, I guess they're force damage now. You don't care. No one cares.
Right. All right, number 5. When a creature hits you with
you can also offhand your battle axe.
Oh, that actually is.
Don't they both need to be light? Or is it just one?
You can offhand your battle axe with a much smaller axe.
Yes. No, that's actually a good point.
Okay.
That is worth bringing up, because if you just have a light weapon on hand that you draw when you get this, you roll a 4 and you say, great, I'm a dual wielder this time around. And you've got a good way to do that.
Of course, actually, I don't even think you can do that because it's still two-handed, isn't it? How do you make a two-handed light weapon?
That's here. When you take the attack action, attack with a light melee weapon that you're holding in one hand, you can use a bonus action with a different light melee weapon you're holding in the other hand. To then, yeah.
Well, it says magic infuses one weapon of your choice that you're holding. Oh, you have to start every combat holding your light weapon and your heavy weapon. And if you get 4, then okay, I'm not using the battle axe.
No, you just started out with your great axe, and then if you get it,
I was right.
Now it's light, and then you free action to take out the light one.
Does getting the light property get rid of the heavy property and the two-handed property?
It certainly doesn't get rid of the two-handed.
Because all light says is a light weapon is small and easy to handle, making it ideal for use when fighting with 2 weapons.
Which is not anything mechanical. That's a flavor description.
Correct.
Whereas heavy...
raw...
Oh, sorry. Heavy doesn't actually matter. Heavy just prevents smaller, tiny creatures from using it easily. But then two-handed is, this weapon requires 2 hands when you attack with it. Very explicitly stated.
So you'd be stuck with a battle axe, which is the longsword axe, which was one-handed, versatile, but not light.
Right, so you could get a D8 with these instead of a D6. There's no light weapon that's above a D6, if I'm remembering correctly. Correct. And so, but like I think the highest one-handed weapon's a D8.
Rapier, yeah.
Yeah, or like longsword,
right?
Battle axe, yeah.
Now,
all D8s.
Once again, though, it says one weapon of your choice that you're holding. So unless you go into this rage already holding a one-handed weapon, you can't just be prepared for that.
Well, you could be a sword barbarian or a shield barbarian. Barbarians get proficiency in shields, don't they?
Yeah.
And it doesn't impact their armor or anything.
So then we're basically saying that if you're playing a wild magic barbarian, you don't want to be a two-hander because you might get this 5 coming up.
No, we're not saying that.
Yeah, we're not saying that.
Because that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
We're just saying you could.
I'm just saying it's one way to handle it.
Sure. But then if you get...
And also, then you'd be stuck with a shield on your arm. And can you hit somebody while you're wearing a shield?
Probably not. That's a good point.
No.
It's a very strange situation you'd find yourself in. So if you were a versatile focused barbarian, which doesn't make any sense at all, this might come up.
Yeah, it's just kind of not a great one.
No, it seems good on a first read too, because being able to throw a weapon 20 feet, that's a limitation of the barbarian. They don't get any ranged attacks. But when it just completely flips your playstyle on its head, I'd almost rather not have that. I just want to be swinging my great axe and consistently know I can use my great axe.
Yeah, I mean, that throw will come up from time to time.
It will.
And then it's nice that it comes back at the end of your current turn. So you may just accept you foregoing an extra attack.
Sure. If you don't have the movement, then you're going to be very happy that you have this because it's better than... I mean, yes, you could still throw a javelin and your axe, and the axe just comes back to you.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It's a little weird. I would want some clarification to see if it gets rid of the two-handed property, but...
I think it would say that.
It should say that, because then this would be good. I would like this.
Yeah.
So I might... I don't know if anybody's ever going to play a wild magic barbarian at our table, but that might be how things go with us if I'm running things, because otherwise I hate that. It's like really bad. Or
again, you just accept out that one's a waste.
But that's not how the wild magic should feel. I don't like the idea of some of them feeling like a waste. That's not fun.
Right.
To me.
It should be like
half
outright
the fucking
bad.
Sorcerer table.
You're right. A lot of them are. Your skin turning blue isn't particularly useful. Either good or bad.
It's at least fun, though. Whereas like this one, effectively, it's like, oh, nothing happens.
Right.
All right. Number 5. Whenever a creature hits you with an attack roll before your rage ends, the creature takes 1d6 force damage as magic lashes out in retribution.
Okay, that's good.
Pretty nuts. Yeah, there's no limit. So, you get swarmed by creatures and they all have multi-attack. Every single one of them. Every attack is getting 1d6 force damage.
I like it.
Yep. Very strong. Be happy to roll that one. It depends, I guess, how smart you want to play the creatures, if they realize what's going on or not. That's always just kind of like a bigger discussion of how to DM things and who the creatures are and how smart they are and things like that.
I would say at least for like a turn, though, they're going to just wail into them without thinking about it.
All right. Number 6, until your rage ends, you are surrounded by multicolored protective lights. You gain a +1 bonus to AC, and while within 10 feet of you, your allies gain the same bonus.
Yes.
Thumbs up. Another good one. +1 bonus to AC is nice.
Approved.
Yes. Especially with the whole bounded accuracy thing. That's always going to be useful. Whereas on the previous one, if you keep forgetting to mention it, the 1d6 never goes up. So at higher levels, it's never not nice, but it's a much bigger deal at 3rd level versus 20th level.
Right.
That's for sure. And number 7, flowers and vines temporarily grow around you until your rage ends. The ground within 15 feet of you is difficult terrain for your enemies.
Yeah, that's a complicated one, I'd say. Just from I can't look at that and say, yes, that's great, or that's bad. It's just kind of a little situational.
It's extremely situational. There will be some battles where that's amazing, especially when there's like choke points and narrow hallways and things like that.
And if you have like a wizard who can combine with that, if they, or cleric, I mean, there's a lot of AoE spells, but if you're making the area also difficult terrain, then that can be really beneficial.
Right.
So from that perspective, it's, I think, what I like about this Wild Magic Barbarian is it's determining what type of style this fight's going to be. If you roll that 7, then you're going to say, hey, AoEs are going to be great this time around, guys. Let's figure something out. Let's, work this out here.
Sorta. I mean, you got to remember, it's like friendly fire is in most AoEs a thing.
Yeah, with 15 feet, you get a lot of. That's a huge radius.
Kind of. Yeah. But the Barbarian's always in the middle of it. So it's kind of more you have to AoE the outskirts of that and hope you get someone trapped in. It could definitely happen.
On like the other side of a wall of fire.
This is another one where, just to make it a little more interesting, where it's just difficult terrain for everybody. It just seemed like they were afraid to add in negativity with this one, which I don't get. Because like that's what the Wild Magic, we said at the beginning, what the Wild Magic Sorcerer is, and they fully leaned into that. There's some really bad stuff and some really great stuff and just some wacky stuff. And that's the class, and that's kind of the character you're accepting. Where if this one just taken out, at worst, things are just kind of, it's not that great except for certain situations.
I look forward to the homebrewed D1000 tables.
Oh, God.
It's just kind of the way they design games now. This feels more modern than the Wild Magic table from the days of yore. I don't mean that in either a good or a bad way, but I understand.
Sure.
Right. No, I agree.
Sure.
It is definitely a intentional game design choice where they're not really adding too many negative mechanics. We were just talking about with the Path of the Beast, where it's this, from a flavor perspective, there's a lot of aspects to say that this is a bad thing. But mechanically speaking, they're not going to sit here and be like, and this aspect sucks, and this part sucks. And when you're in towns, people hate you. So you got a negative or a 10 to persuasion or things like that.
Right.
It's like, hey, you know what? If you want to role play out some of the bad aspects, great. Mechanically, here are your benefits.
Sure.
As Will said, I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying that's bad, but I think that is the design intent.
Yeah, I get that. More modern is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
See that with video games too. A lot older ones, they just do things that are a lot more harsh or feel clunky for the sake of realism, things like that, where more modern game design is just kind of polishes that and gets that away and reframes things where everything is a positive, even if it all works out the same, just how it's framed.
Right. Instead of the game designer sitting there saying, like, how can I punish people for buying this game? It's like, how can we make people have fun and want to come back? And if they want more of a challenge, add it themselves. So it's like, oh, okay.
I kind of realized that recently. I was playing some game and I died and I had to go back 5 minutes and I was like, what the fuck?
Right.
5 minutes?
Right.
And I was like, wait a second. How spoiled have I become?
Which is funny because you just have so many games now whose the genre is punishing your roguelites, or roguelikes, not roguelites. Your Souls games.
They both exist, but whatever.
Oh, they do? Roguelite?
Yeah, there are roguelikes and roguelites.
Oh, okay.
It's not important.
it's super not. No. But it's all in the spirit of
Dark Soul likes.
That's just Souls like.
Souls like. That's what you said. Yes. Okay.
Souls Light.
No, there's no Souls Light.
Zelda's a Souls Light game.
Shut the.
Souls rights.
Oh boy.
The genre of games where they argue that souls should have rights. It's really not a controversial statement. Just people should have rights, but
Instead of being crammed into bottles, is that how that game works? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never played Dark Souls. All I know is I leveled strength.
That's the somersault simulator, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's all in that spirit of being able to find the challenge that you want instead of it being forced on you, which is like old design style. It's interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I'm generally for it. Like, I'm playing through God of War right now, and like the main game itself has been really easy, not super complicated, but then they have like these side quests that it's just like, hey, you're going to get your ass beat for 3 hours. And I'm like, oh, right. Cool. I can find that challenge when I want to, and it's really fun and rewarding because I like that. I like Souls games, but I don't constantly feel bogged down and unable to progress through the story. How that relates to D&D, it's a little wonky because DM difficulty is on a person-by-person basis.
Right. I mean, that just comes into where session zeros come in and finding the right group for you and all that.
Right.
Yeah. Did you fight a Valkyrie yet?
Yeah, I've killed 3 of the 8.
Oh, look at you killing Valkyries.
They're tough.
I think I died twice and gave up.
No, they're fun.
They're tough. Yeah.
They're 100% what I love about Souls games is you fight it and you're just like, oh my god, they've got like 16 moves. How am I ever going to get the muscle memory for this, as well as just like the knowledge of their moveset? And slowly after each death, you learn more, you learn more, you learn more.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I'm a god. This is great.
Hey, that's the title of the game.
I'm a god. This is great.
Yeah. 2.
Yes. Anyways, back to D&D. The final 8th effect of the Wild Magic table for the Barbarian. A bolt of light shoots from your chest. Another creature of your choice that you can see within 30 feet must make a con save or take 1d6 radiant damage and be blinded until the start of your next turn. And then until the rage ends, you can do this again as a bonus action. So I love being able to put out the blinded condition.
It's strong. That's real strong.
It should blind you too.
Yeah.
Well, what is
this
interesting...
is a con save.
It is a con save, but it also says another creature of your choice, but it doesn't say if you want, which means that if only allies are within 30 feet, somebody has to take this. Including yourself.
Yeah.
You could put it on yourself.
Looking at this table...
No, it says another creature of your choice.
You're right. Sorry. That's what that word means.
Looking at this table, you should know not to rage outside of a 30-foot radius of hostiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. There's never a reason.
I think this is the only one that's like that, though.
First one, too. The shadowy tendrils.
Each creature of your choice, so you could just say nobody.
Right, but there's still a benefit to being within 30 feet.
Yes. Yeah.
And the flump.
Or pixie. Your choice, man.
Yeah.
It's going to be the flump.
You can sit here and think, like, hey, I've got this deep, detailed backstory. Do I think it's more of a flump or do I think it's more of a pixie? Really.
I think it's more of a flump.
It's a flump.
The options you can choose.
I look at these things like for hours a day and just laugh.
Flumps?
Yes. They're fucking hilarious, man.
See, now the video watchers do get the benefit of Kevin now will put up a flumph, and everybody else can look at it and giggle at their tiny little faces. Otherwise, though, this is a really good ability. Again, bonus action to do 1d6 damage, and the blinded condition, it's the same damage output as that's... Well, I guess it's not comparable, because it's a single target and a con save. But regardless, that blinded effect is... It's just the greatest. We've talked before about how blindness/deafness, the second level spell, is very underrated. But it is a encounter changer, where if you blind a spellcaster for a turn, they're not casting spells. Hooray!
Right. And guess what can happen again?
Yeah, you can just hit him again.
Yeah. And advantage for everybody. They have disadvantage on attacks.
Right.
Blinded is one of the strongest conditions.
Yes.
That's or easy to apply.
Yeah, or target the strong martial monster on the battlefield, and now, they have disadvantage on all their attacks, and just, well-placed blind is nice. This one's... I'm happy it's limited to the start of your next turn, so just one round of it. It's not like a minute, or they can make a save type deal. That would be a little much, but... Yeah. Well, that is the wild surge table of this class, and that's the main thing.
He wanted to gloss over it. That was going to be just 2 minutes of you reading past it. We'd have ignored it all.
Right.
That's where all the meat was, Kevin.
It was. So a lot of good stuff. A lot of just kind of stuff. But I don't think I have much more to say on that. We kind of covered it as we went. All right, then at 6, you get Bolstering Magic. You can harness your wild magic to bolster yourself or a companion. As an action, you can touch one creature, which can be yourself, and confer one of the following benefits of your choice to that creature. There's 2 options here. So for 10 minutes, the creature could roll a d3. I think this might be the first time we've seen it actually written in here. Making an attack roll or an ability check and add the number rolled to the d20. So I split up my explanation. Basically, for 10 minutes, if you make an attack roll or an ability check, you can add a d3 to it. Or roll a d3, and the creature gains 1 expended spell slot, the level of which equals the number rolled or lower creature's choice, and you can only benefit that once per long rest. The whole bolstering magic thing, where you pick somebody and have them do this, you could do it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. So a D3 is a little weird, but it makes sense because a D4 does feel too strong with this.
I think that the D4 for the attack rolls and ability checks wouldn't feel too strong, as it is a action and touch in order to do.
Right, but then they have it for 10 minutes, and there's then no limit on it.
The limit's your proficiency bonus, in my opinion.
No, I mean, if you do this and you give somebody this roll for 10 minutes,
right,
that creature has no limit. Every single attack roll and ability check will get this added to it.
Sure.
Which kind of like a souped up bless. And there's no way to end it. There's no concentration. It's not a magical effect.
Yeah. I hate to say it. It's like, it's super similar to bless, but also totally different. Because it's an ability checks instead of saving throws, which is really, in my opinion, what makes Bless so great. The attack rolls is nice, it's super nice, but saving throws is where it's like saving the entire combat. This not having that, it's only going to come up for attack rolls. And adding +4 to an attack roll instead of +3 doesn't change much and makes things simpler. Because everybody has a D4. Yeah. Nobody has a D3. You're rolling a D6 and dividing by 2.
Right.
But
that's fine. Yeah, I don't feel that strongly about it. For the spell slot, though, I do. That needed to be capped at a D3.
Yes, that is.
4th level spells start to get pretty strong.
Yeah, you're talking about totally different things here in allowing a 4th level spell versus a 3rd level spell. So I get it for that. It's a little clunky. But I'm sure that a lot of time was spent talking about this in, behind closed doors at D&D headquarters. I don't know what that means. I'm just saying words. But I get why it was done so that it could be a consistent D3. It would be dumb if it was they can roll a D4 for this one. And if it's a spell, then you do a D3. That would just be confusing.
I guess. I mean, I don't feel strongly either way, but yeah, I'm just happy it's a D3. And I like that ability. That's really cool and a really interesting thing for a barbarian to have to help out your spellcaster buddy.
Yes.
Yeah. I like that. And that's...
see it being used more out of combat to regain those spell slots than in combat to add the D3 to attack rolls and ability checks.
That's still good, though.
Yeah. It's not bad.
I mean, they're both really solid. It's kind of a tough choice because in some senses getting like you're 6th level already. So like your 6th level wizard getting back a 1st level spell is not that amazing.
No.
Like it's really nice, but then, getting back a 3rd level spell is of course really good.
Right.
So there's kind of a risk there. Whereas given the fighter, D3 added to every single attack roll in a combat. He's really awesome. Ideally, yourself. You could kind of yeah, or both. You could have, right? You can't.
No, there's no limit.
Multiple of these going,
but that's 2 actions to do.
Right. Ideally, you recognize combat's happening. It's kind of one of those. You get 10 seconds of prep.
So where I actually love this more than any of the things that we've mentioned is those times where somebody's about to go on we'll say a solo mission. The best thing I can think of is like the rogue who's about to scout ahead. You can give them this for 10 minutes, and it's like giving them guidance for 10 minutes on everything that they do.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is where it's really going to excel in a way that no other barbarian can right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's great, but it does fall into the pattern that you were talking about with the 10-minute one actions. You can do this in combat. I would never do this in combat. It's just not that good. If you have literally nothing else to do with your action, sure, give it to yourself. But yeah, you want to get this off before rolling initiative.
Main time I see that happening is if it's turn 1, you rage, you run, you still aren't close enough to attack.
Right.
Beyond throwing a javelin.
Rage.
You don't lose your rage for not attacking the first time. It's if your next turn goes by and you don't attack. And if you rage then you were stupid. It's good first turn setup if things present themselves. And, the situations where your DM's nice and they are making it very clear that combat's about to come up. I would love if the barbarian knew combat was going to happen and then just gave this to the 3 martial characters because you're about to go into combat. Great, cool. As you said, right. It's kind of like Bless without any concentration, and you're going to be super happy you had this.
Yeah. Or if you're about to die, you realizing, I'm going to die next turn because this thing's beating up on me. Instead of taking 1 more action to attack, give this out, I guess.
Yeah, and it doesn't even, you might just want to disengage, really, but but it doesn't even go down when you go unconscious. So,
right.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, they took a lot of already established ideas with that 10 minutes D3 thing, and it just feels unique in the way that it's actually carried out.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of out-of-combat utility as well. Someone needs to give a rousing speech, and there's going to be a series of performance and persuasion checks. This will add to it.
And if you need another excuse to roll a D12, you can do a D12 and divide by 4 instead of a D6 divide by 2.
It sounds worth it.
This is some advanced Dungeons and Dragons advice.
We actually got D12 D6s, didn't we? Somebody got those for us. I don't remember who. Yep. Was that you, Kevin?
That was me. I don't remember why. I remember seeing them, and
we just love D12s.
That was right. I just love D12s, man.
There was a reason we were going to be using D6s more, though.
I don't think so. I think
we always use D6s a bunch, so it was just like
right.
It's like, hey, you want to roll more D12s?
Hey, kid, you want to roll some D12s that are actually D6s?
Boy, do I! That would have been a really good segue to Metallic Dice Games if they had those. They don't have those. But instead, we'll go to Unstable Backlash.
Yes, level 10, you get Unstable Backlash. When you are imperiled during your rage, the magic within you can lash out. Immediately after you take damage or fail a saving throw while raging, you can use your reaction to roll on the Wild Magic table and immediately produce the effect rolled. This replaces your current Wild Magic effect. Which is nice. It's just more control over it, and you could choose to do this. You don't have to. So if you get the number 4 one there, right, you're just not using it at all. Here's another chance to switch it.
Right. At some point, this is going to be nice. You're going to get a thing you don't like, and this will let you potentially change it to a thing you do like. Or you'll roll and get the exact same number, and then you can do it again next turn.
Right.
There's no limit. So you're basically, every time you get hurt, you just say, all right, I'm going to keep rolling until I get that one that lets me blind people, because that one excites me and everything else doesn't. As long as you have a reaction.
It uses your reaction. So it is a once per round thing.
Interestingly, it also procs the effect, which is pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah, because if we're talking about like number 1, those shadowy tendrils, if you can immediately get that out, that can be really useful. And next time you get hit and you have a reaction again, switch it out, because it's not useful every single turn.
Right.
So I would almost say that it is an inadvertent buff. Well, obviously there was some intent behind it. That's a little dismissive to the designers, but it is a buff to those ones that otherwise can seem a little bit less great, or like have their initial oomph and then dissipate.
Right. And it pairs nicely with the 14th level ability, Controlled Surge. Whenever you roll on the Wild Magic table, you could roll the die twice and choose which of the 2 effects to unleash. If you roll doubles, you could just ignore the number and pick whatever you want. And so this level 10 ability would be impacted by this as well, in addition to when you initially rage. So it's, the final 2 abilities of the subclass are just better control of the Wild Magic table.
Which I like a lot. That's a good way to flavor it.
Sure, I would like it better if there were negatives that we can now more easily avoid, and it would feel more powerful, but whatever.
But instead you're ignoring the mediocre.
Yes.
You're saying, oh, I don't have any use for making my magic weapon that's a +3 force damage, because I'm not fighting a demi-lich right now. So,
Right.
I'll do my whatever else. Which ones do you think you'd use the most if you are choosing?
Teleport. Number 2 there, yeah.
Number 8
Number
for me.
5.
Oh, that's
number 5 and number 8. The one where when you hit 1d6 force damage lashes back. No save or anything, just happens.
Sure.
Every single time you hit. And it's not even within 5 feet. Someone's shooting at you from range. Someone's casting a spell at you, because it's just an attack roll before your range ends.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would probably take that more often than 6, which gives +1 to AC, and while within 10 feet, your allies also gain the same bonus, because that is a variable. You don't know whether or not that +1 AC is going to matter. Mathematically speaking, it gives you and your allies within 10 feet a 5% better chance of not getting hit, which isn't very good. Whereas the 1d6 is guaranteed.
It's heavily party dependent. If you run around with a goon squad, with a monk and a paladin and a melee fighter, it's just
back
you
to
and
back.
The boys are just gonna beat the shit out of anything in their path. That's great.
Right.
Yeah, if you're sorcerer, a wizard, and a ranged fighter in the back, yeah.
The nerd squad doesn't really help.
No. And then that number 8, again, just being able to shoot a bolt as a bonus action and potentially blind a creature. I'd be taking that every time. So.
But yeah, overall, I feel it's a very powerful subclass. And just, unique in a lot of ways. I love its 6th level ability a lot.
That being the D3. The D3 ability. I don't need to say anything else about it.
Yeah.
Bolstering Magic. Yeah, it's unique. It feels very different for a barbarian, which I think we mentioned earlier as well. but always love to see that when we've got a new subclass out. I don't want ones that are like Path of the Beast that feel like they could be overlap from a flavor standpoint. This one stands on its own entirely, and it gives you an option for a barbarian that has not been on the table before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I still like the idea of taking different emotions for their rage.
Mm-hmm.
That could get real creepy.
Yeah. And you could change it up too based on the situation.
Sure.
Doesn't always have to be like you pick one when you make the character and that's their rage.
If you wanted to take it even a step further, you could associate one of the D8s with a different emotion.
Ooh. I like that a lot.
So like when you get your 1 on the D8, it's jealousy, and that's forms in shadowy tendrils lashing out, or whatever poetic nuance you want to put on it. That's up to you and not for someone as dumb as me to talk about.
Just trying to picture, how would you display jealousy while raging in battle? Happiness, sadness, anger. Sure.
Give me your blood. No, because jealousy
and that would be envy.
Yeah, I always mix those up, because envy is things that you don't have. Jealousy is something that you do have, and being worried about losing it.
An uninjured body.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm jealous of your uninjured body.
So I'm gonna injure you. Gonna beat the shit out of you. But yeah, that could work. I like whatever flavor you want to put on those.
Right.
So one of the final things that I'd like about this is, as the DM, it would give you a lot of ways to just describe their rage as well. And yeah, if you constantly are like me and just fail to make descriptions that wow your party, you can sign up for Describe. One of our affiliate programs. Describe is a resource DMs can use to pull pre-written descriptions of environments and events, and just lets you kind of get rid of that mental burden of pre-writing something that's going to wow your players or whatever. So if you're going into an ancient cave, there's a description for that. If you're going into an abandoned windmill, there's a description for that. If your barbarian is laughing maniacally while swinging their sword and cutting off heads, you might need to request it, but I'm sure they could put something together. And you can get 10% off your order using the code MM10, and yeah, get yourself a subscription to that. Otherwise, like, subscribe, ring the bell, comment, tell Kevin he's a great guy, because he is. Tell Will he could work on it, but overall, like having him around. What else?
Watch other videos.
Oh,
that's the big thing. Click-through rates. That's big on YouTube.
Boy,
yeah, click through to other videos.
I don't know where I was going with that. Click through.
At this point, there's probably an end screen title card over our faces of other videos.
Click on one of those. Watch some more.
Yeah. Unless we keep talking too long here, then it's like it could only be like the last 30 seconds. So if we talk beyond that and use a bunch of verbose words and over-explain ourselves, kind of in the sense I'm doing now for the sake of a joke, and just sort of keep prattling on and on and on and on and on, we'll sort of hit the point where I said that, then there will no longer be videos, but now there probably is. And that was really not worthwhile at all, and I don't know why I went so far into that, so thanks for watching.
If you keep apologizing, then it won't be over the second part where you said now it should be up.
And if you're on the podcast, sorry you had to sit through all that. Leave reviews and click through the other podcasts. And thanks for listening.
Click through to other podcasts. What the fuck are you talking about?